Well, hello, family and friends. It is Kanoi, and I am finally back with another junk journal with me. I'm really excited about this one because I'm finally breaking in my brand new junk journal made by Heather Wilkerson. You can find her here on YouTube at official Heather Wilkerson. And I have 18 bazillion pictures that I need to document because I have not done any journaling since before Thanksgiving. So lots of pictures here that I had to cut up and also had to go back into my planner to make sure that I knew what dates I was writing down on each of the entries. So here Heather wrote a little note to me on a guest check, and so I wanted to use this as my first entry. So I'm taking the cover of a magazine because it says thankful issue. I feel like I've been receiving a lot of really sweet and generous gifts from people, and then also just from the Lord. I feel like He's been blessing my life in, ways that are, I can't really say tangible. It's just been such a wonderful season. And so I thought that that was really, I don't know, kind of fitting to have the thankful issues. So I basically just sewed it onto this journaling card that was made by Jenny Gray, who sent me some happy mail. And so I put it on the back of that. And then on this little thankful issue piece, I sewed on the edges and just made it look like it was a sewn in belly band. So I just glued it on with some fabric glue. And I couldn't decide if I wanted the thankful issue or this little card that said mama, but I was like, I got to make sure I have that mama card in there. So I cut it out. And then now I am making, well, I didn't know at the time what I was making. I just knew that I wanted some vellum and this little gold leaf that was sitting in my stash. So I took it and I inked up the edges. I sewed on the leaf and did the same kind of deal by sewing the edges and creating another pocket. So I'm using double-sided tape for this just so I don't have all of that wrinkling on the vellum, because the vellum is a lot more fragile than paper and will tend to wrinkle if I use glue. So double-sided tape I am finding works best, and it just looks a little bit neater. So I'm sticking in that journaling card into the belly band and then writing grateful, because even though I am thankful, I am also super grateful. I know they're synonyms. They mean the same thing, right? But yes, I wanted to hand letter that onto the vellum. So I'm using this gold pen and doing some faux hand lettering. And if you want to know what that means, it's basically on every downstroke, you would create a thicker line. So it creates kind of like a faux calligraphy look if you wanted to try to practice that. And then I'm sticking that little mama card in there and finally going to my journaling card and writing a little bit of what I just said, basically about how I'm so thankful for all of the things that are happening in this season, and outlining my hand lettering now with a black pen. I feel like it makes it look a lot more, I don't know, outstanding, I guess. And then taking these little pieces that Heather had in this humongous journaling card. I love when people have these little tiny pieces. I don't usually put those in my journal, but I love that they're in there. So I'm using this piece and I'm actually going to glue it onto that pocket for, I guess, to notate that this is my first entry, which is on December 17th. But of course, I am dating back a lot of my entries. So even though, a lot of my entries are going back into November, I wanted to make sure that I put the date that I actually started the journal. And just doing a little bit of journaling here and there. I'm writing my words for 2023, which are steadfast and obedient. Obedient, I guess, to the call that I feel like God has on my life, which in this season is doing a Bible study. So I'm taking these journaling tags that Heather made for me and I am putting in an eyelet, and I kind of made a mistake because I thought that they would turn, but I should have used a brad. That's okay. We're going to figure out what to do with those. So on to my first journal entry. I'm going back to Election Day, November 8th, and I just had some pieces hanging out from some junk mail that I got of this flag, and then a picture of me, my husband, and my daughter. And I'm backing this photo with a piece of artwork that she actually brought home from school that I almost threw out. It was one of those pieces that I didn't really want to keep in my journal. So I thought, well, gosh, I can use the construction paper at least. Don't throw anything away, right, junk journalers? So good thing it actually was hanging out in the trash can underneath my desk. So I used that to just add a little bit of emphasis on the photo, glued it down. And then I have this card that says the distance between dreams and reality is called action. And I thought that that was also fitting for this particular journal entry. And using a piece of fabric tape to tape it on to this page so that I can go back and do some journaling afterwards. I'm not going to sit here and do the journaling yet. I'll do that later, just to talk about, our day of voting. And I'm using this ginormous date stamp. It's a date stamp from Studio Calico. I remember back in the day we couldn't even get our hands on those, but I think now you can buy them. And then to cover up the top little white space, I guess you could say, I found some red and blue ribbon, and I'm basically just stapling it on so it adds a little bit of character to this page, and covered up a little bit of the white space. And then simply hand lettering, doing our part. And I'm done with that one. So now I am making use of the journaling cards that Heather gave to me. I think this one says something about friends, and we had a barbecue at our house, so I'm just journaling about that. For this journal, I really wanted to not necessarily go in chronological order, but try to at least keep the seasons in order. So I am trying to stay towards the front of the journal and working my way back instead of just going all over the journal. That way, if I needed to go back and look at an entry, I would at least know what section it's in. So I took some gold ribbon and am creating, I don't even know what you call those. I was going to say tag, but the tag is the tag. Anyhow, here is a cute little heart, I guess, ephemera piece that Heather also created, and I am just gluing it onto a piece of embellished book page so that I can create something on the back of it. I loved the fact that both sides were available for me to write on, so then I decided to design on the back. And this journal entry is going to be about the day we went to Boulder City to a couple of estate sales. So I am taking a couple of pieces of the ephemera that I found, the actual ephemera that were at this particular house, and creating a little cluster out of it, using my stamps to write the word vintage on a piece of coffee stain paper, and using my hot glue gun just to get it all down. I find that when you're doing clusters and you want to do it quickly, the hot glue gun works the best, especially if you want to have kind of a 3D look where, everything isn't nailed down perfectly with glue. I like having some of the edges lifting up as long as it's sturdy enough. But this piece here that says vintage on it, I definitely needed to glue it down because the edges of that paper were quite fragile. So I made sure that they were all down and flush on the paper. So using my ginormous stamp again and placing it onto the heart. And then on the other side, since the first side was vintage, I have a photo of that day out in Boulder City my husband took of me, and I thought, okay, well, since that side was vintage, I'm going to make this side modern. So I'm just using some more modern pieces, I guess, of scraps and ephemera, and just creating, I guess, a little bit of a contrast from the front to the back. That's totally my style anyway. I love the mixture between vintage items and more modern items. I love color. I love the sepia tones. I love it all. I am a total maximalist. Like, give me all the things. Let me put it all into my journal. I am not going to have like this nice aesthetic look. It is definitely going to be all over the place. And even look at this. I'm writing all over this heart, kind of just following the shape of the heart. And to me, it's kind of fun. It just mixes things up a little bit. And then I was trying to figure out what to do next, and I decided to move on from the tags. I have pictures from my son's football, I guess, final football games. The football season finally came to an end, and I had this envelope that I found at an estate sale also that had football on it, and I thought, okay, this is perfect for this entry. So I'm just gluing the flap down on one side of the coffee stain paper and simply placing the photos onto this envelope. My journaling tends to be a little bit more simple. I don't know. I try to be creative, but at the same time, when I have so many pictures, it's hard for me to try to get super creative with them. So I'm just placing them down, and I'm writing from one losing season to the next league champions. It was pretty interesting, the stark contrast between the two football teams. My son's school team had a losing season, and then their league actually ended up winning the championship, which was nice to come out of the losing season and win. I mean, it was, I don't know, it was definitely disheartening. And then taking a piece of old ledger paper and just using it for some journaling. I'm going to come back to that later as well. And then this is a photo of my husband and my dog Charlie on that last game. They were enjoying the cool weather. I think this was when the weather really started getting kind of chilly, and I love it. I love, love, love the cold weather. If I had to choose between cold weather and warm weather, I definitely would choose cooler weather. And so I think my dog loves it too. And then here's my daughter. She had another gymnastics meet, and it was just really sweet because my parents were here visiting from Hawaii, and they were able to go to this meet where she came in first once again, all around champion. So it was a really exciting day. So I am just gluing this picture onto one of the journaling cards that Heather made and journaling about that day. And then we were able to actually put up our Christmas tree earlier than normal. And so I'm using some pieces that Jenny sent to me, using some of this fabric here that has Christmas trees on it, and going to make a pocket. And also using this card that she also made to place a photo of my daughter decorating our Christmas tree. It was really exciting this year because we just moved here to Vegas, and I just thought, oh man, it's going to be so expensive getting all new ornaments because we didn't bring our ornaments with us. But I actually went to a thrift store and I found bags of ornaments, and they were old, they were vintage, they were original. We are so excited about it. We got bags and bags of them for just a couple of dollars. And so our tree is very special this year. So I definitely wanted to document that. Using, again, some of the ephemera pieces that Jenny sent, and then also using some of these vintage stickers that I found at an estate sale. I believe they're from the 80s and the 70s, and creating just a little bit more decorative elements onto this journal entry. Also this vintage card, it's a little miniature card, and then journaling about that day. And I don't know what it is about this year, but it especially feels sentimental, I guess. I guess the kids are getting a little bit older. My son is in middle school now, and so I really am trying to cherish every little moment of innocence that they have, trying to hold on to it. So even these little pieces that my daughter created at school, I wanted to keep in my journal just because they're so darn cute. I don't keep every piece of artwork, but the ones that are special and, kind of related to the holidays, I definitely wanted to keep that. And then that day in Boulder City, when we went to the estate sales, we always make a pit stop at A&W just because it feels so old and historic. And then that day we also went to Dairy Queen to get some dessert. So I just kept some of the pieces and just basically gluing them on here. Nothing special, but definitely memorable. I mean, have you guys eaten at A&W? This was the first time that I've ever actually eaten one. Since we moved here to Vegas, we finally were able to taste it. Anyways, moving on, we went on a vacation to San Diego. We met up with some friends that lived in Hawaii with us, and they also live in the States now. And we decided to meet up for Thanksgiving break. So we went to San Diego and stayed near Balboa Park, which was really, really beautiful. And it was kind of neat just being able to spend that week there exploring and definitely getting to see the beach. That was super special. The waves are awesome in San Diego, by the way. And of course, I always love to take pictures of flowers anytime there are flowers around. So these were the beautiful florals that we found in Balboa Park. That park is really special. It's so historic. It's so well kept. It's just a beautiful place to go and take pictures and walk around. And there were people there getting married, and it was just really cool. So I'm just taping this picture in. I decided not to cut it up. I thought it looked kind of cool just being all in one piece, even though it is collaged. And then gluing some pictures down that I took with my kids that day. I always say it is really an occasion when I can get my children to both smile in one photo. So these were definitely going to make it into the entry. And then just journaling about our day at the park to remember, the beauty of it and how stunning it was. And also the backdrops. I mean, they were just ridiculous. And then for Thanksgiving, instead of actually trying to cook a meal, we all decided to go to SeaWorld. I know it sounds crazy, but it was awesome because there was no one there. And then also we picked up the all you can eat package. So we were able to just eat to our heart's content all day long. And it really was a fun time. It was such a happy week. Even though my daughter and I were really sick, I actually had a 105-degree temperature whenever we went on this trip, which was crazy. I actually got sick the night before we left, and we were actually supposed to drive. So it was going to be a 5-hour trip. And once I saw my temperature at 105, I'm like, there is no way I can drive a car for 5 hours. So we booked a flight and we ended up heading out that next day. I just took some ibuprofen, took some Tylenol, put on a mask, and went. So I've definitely had to pull up my big girl panties, and as we went exploring, and I did feel good by the time we made it to Thanksgiving. So that was a blessing for sure, to be able to at least enjoy that day together at SeaWorld and not feel completely horrible. So I have some photos. I actually forgot that these photos were in my phone, so I went back and printed them out and decided to place them into these little journaling slots that Heather made, and then also a photo of my son and daughter at the aquarium at SeaWorld. And then just covering up some of the text of that book page with some washi tape, my William Morris washi tape. And what else am I doing? I don't even remember. I spent, 4 hours of journaling. 4 hours of journaling the other day, yesterday. So my brain was a little bit wacky by the end of it. Okay, so I'm sticking some stickers on there. Live the life with love. No, I can't read it. Sorry, it's so small. Live the life you love. Love the life you live. Yes. And then I'm smacking on some alphabet stickers that says Happy Thanksgiving. This took quite a bit of time because I actually had to glue them on. They weren't sticky anymore. And plus I'm sticking them onto washi tape. So I also took a piece of Scotch tape and decided to reinforce it by placing that over the letters so that they would not chip off as I came through this journal. And then journaling on those little labels there, dating my entry, and moving on. Here's a photo of me, my mom, and my Auntie Randy, who just recently passed away on November 23rd, which was actually her birthday as well as my mom's birthday. So a bit of a hard day for my mom now as each birthday rolls around every year. But I told her, you have to look at it as a blessing that she came to this earth on this day, and she also gets to go home to be with Jesus on this day. And so, we have to rejoice and celebrate her life every year. And I'm hoping that brought her a little bit of peace. It's her baby sister, and I know she misses her so much, and we all do. She was just the sweetest. So we love you, Auntie Randy. Rest in love. And then my husband and I went out on a birthday date. It was my birthday on November 26th. And so I texted him one day. I said, hey, if you ever want to be really romantic, 2 words, high tea. I've been wanting to go to high tea and he's never been. So we went to a place called the Tea Terrace, and here is their business card that I just glued down onto this pocket. And I'm taking out this tea time book to find something to back the page so that I can do this entry. I thought this page was really cute of the teapot. So I cut it down, but then I cut it down way too much. So a little bit of a mistake that I made there. And then I decided, oh boy, I better go find another page to back this up. But that teapot was way too cute not to keep. So I went back into the tea time book and I found a different page to be the background of the entry where I could place the photos that I had from the day that we went. So I cut this page down, making sure not to cut it down too much this time, and then glued it right onto that avocado stained paper. It's funny because I actually taped a border to the top, or glued a border that was from the Tea Time or the Tea Terrace pamphlet, and I didn't like it. So I glued right over it with that book page, and now I'm just reinforcing it with this William Morris washi tape because the edge of the page was sticking up a little bit just because the book page was so thick. And then I decided that, okay, I really can't get rid of this teapot. It is so stinking cute. So I turned the page over and decided to glue it down right onto the page. And then I thought, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and put my photos on this page instead because I think it's way too cute. So this was just a picture that my husband took of me drinking my tea. And then I took some photos, of course, of the food it's just so darn cute. If you've never been to high tea or afternoon tea, it is the best thing ever. That little flag came in one of our sandwiches. And then guess what, guys? I decided I didn't like that page anymore and I decided to take it out. But Heather, I'm sorry. It won't go to waste though. Of course, I'll use it for other projects. But, you know, honestly, this journal is already getting so fat. It's already beyond its width capacity. Thank God it's a soft cover. Which is, you know, the joy of the soft covers is that you can actually expand them and it's not going to get a big ugly alligator mouth. But I could use some pages going out, I guess. So here are the rest of the photos from our tea date. My husband was so funny. He was eyeing up the all-you-can-eat crab next door, and he was kind of chuckling the whole time. He's like, boy, I can't wait to go back to high tea. He was saying facetiously. But he was a good sport anyway, just the fact that he came. Here's some photos of my daughter. She just started cheerleading. Well, actually, she's been cheerleading, but this was the first day that they actually had their full uniform, and they had a little cheer extravaganza where they all got to perform. And so we got up extra early that day, and we curled her hair, put on just a tiny bit of makeup, and I took some photos of her, and she just looked so, so cute. And she did such a good job in the extravaganza. There she is performing there on the bottom. And then I'm just putting on a label and this was a piece of ephemera that I had just in my scrap box. I forget what it says and I can't read it because it's just too small. Hand lettering to 2022 cheer extravaganza and then journaling about that day. I think in the bottom I wrote, these are the moments we live for. Of course, there's that song that goes in my head every time I say that. And here's a door that I had from Little Bindy's shop. These were the fold-out pieces that she had. And I decided to use it because I started singing at our church. I started singing on the worship team. So for me, it just signified a new door that has opened. Well, it's kind of an old door, but reopening, I guess I should say. So I put those pictures down. One of the pictures were from the actual church's Instagram that they posted. And then I'm taking these, I don't even know what kind of stickers these are, but they're cute and they look like doorknobs. So I put one onto the doorknob, cutting out a label and sticking it down on the top. And then I think I wrote, a new door has opened. Using my date stamp once again to date the entry and writing all about my experience on the first day of the worship team. And my church is also getting ready to build a brand new building. We're really excited about it. And so they took a miracle offering, which my husband and I prayed about and came up with the same exact number that we felt the Lord was prompting us to give. And this was the letter that the church actually sent to us after kind of like a thank you note. And so I journaled about that because I am believing for miracles out of this. I mean, I believe that, you know, anytime you give to the kingdom, and this is not in any kind of like prosperity gospel way, but I really truly believe that the Lord loves a cheerful giver, as the Bible says, and I believe that he blesses those who do give. So that is pretty much the end of this first journaling session. It was so much fun. I'm so excited to be back doing some journaling and breaking in this brand new journal from Heather. Thank you again, Heather. And I would love it if you would like this video, subscribe to my channel, come back, and we will do more journaling together in the future. Until then, we'll see you again. Ahui ho and aloha.